Welcome to Fragile Bonds, to the powerful stories of family, love, loss, and the choices that shape our lives. Now let's begin today's story.
I'm Lisa Taylor. I work as a freelance graphic designer. I live in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio with my husband David and our 3-year-old daughter Emma. David is an accountant at a local firm, a serious and kind husband. Our married life was peaceful, and we lived comfortably without any troubles. Emma is a bright, energetic little girl who runs around the house every day. When she wakes up in the morning, she comes flying into my office first thing and climbs onto my lap while I'm working. It can be a bit inconvenient sometimes, but the moment her little hands touch my arm, I feel like I could do anything for this child. One morning, I was preparing Emma's lunch in the kitchen. While making sandwiches, I called out to Emma. She had been looking at a picture book in the living room, but when she heard my voice, she came pattering over. When I told her lunch was ready, Emma's eyes lit up and she asked me if we were going to Grandma's house today. "That's right, Grandma and Aunt Claire are going to play with you," I answered, and Emma clapped her hands with delight. My mother, Barbara, lives about 20 minutes away by car. My younger sister Claire is single and lives with Mom. Our family often gathered at Mom's house on weekends to enjoy meals together. On the surface, we were a very close family. Just last weekend, we had visited Mom's house. She treated us to her specialty dishes. "Emma, you've gotten so big," Mom said, her eyes crinkling with joy. Claire picked Emma up too, saying, "So cute. I'll play with you," with a smile on her face. "You always help us out so much, thank you," I said, and both Mom and Claire responded, "Of course." For me, my mother and sister were people I could count on. I had no doubts about them taking care of Emma. Then this past Saturday morning, Mom called. "How about we take Emma to the shopping mall today?" Mom suggested. "Claire will come too." "You have work to do, Lisa," she continued. It was true, I had a design deadline for a client on Monday. I needed to concentrate and finish it over the weekend. Mom's offer was honestly a relief. David had to work on Saturday too and would be out all morning. I didn't have time to take Emma out, and it was difficult to work at home while looking after her. "Could you do that for me?" I asked Mom. "Of course, leave it to me," Mom readily agreed. Around 10 o'clock, Mom and Claire arrived by car to pick her up. Emma was already bouncing at the front door, unable to contain her excitement. "Emma, have fun with Grandma and Aunt Claire," I called out to my daughter. Emma replied cheerfully, "Okay, Mommy, good luck with your work." Mom reassured me, "Don't worry, I'll keep a good eye on her." Claire also said with a smile, "Leave it to us, sis." I put Emma in the car and fastened her seatbelt. Emma was waving at me from the back seat window. "Be careful, call me if anything comes up," I insisted. "It'll be fine, we'll be back by evening," Mom replied from the driver's seat. As I watched the car quietly drive away, I breathed a sigh of relief. Now I could focus on my work. I went back inside and headed straight to my office. Unfinished design drafts were spread across my desk. I took a sip of coffee and grabbed my mouse. The logo design revisions requested by the client took longer than I expected. Adjusting color balance, changing fonts, checking the preview over and over. While I was concentrating, the morning flew by. At 11 o'clock, I had a video conference scheduled with the client. I sat in front of my computer and checked the camera and microphone. The meeting went smoothly. The client was satisfied with my proposal, and we decided on the final design direction. This would easily meet Monday's deadline. After finishing the meeting, I went downstairs to make coffee, feeling a bit relieved. While drinking coffee in the kitchen, I checked my phone. There was a message from David. "Emma's out with your mom and them today, right?" it said. "That's right, at the shopping mall," I replied. David's response came right away. "Then we can have a quiet dinner together tonight." It's been a while, hasn't it? I replied. We'd been so busy with work lately that we hadn't had time alone together. Tonight might be the first time in a while we could really talk. Work went smoothly in the afternoon too. I refined the design details, fine-tuned the colors, and saved the file. Before I knew it, it was past 5 in the afternoon. Outside the window, it was already starting to get dark. Mom and the others should be back soon. We'll be back by evening, Mom had said. I paused my work and picked up my phone. There was still no word from Mom. Even at 6 o'clock, there was no news. Getting a bit worried, I called Mom. The phone rang. But Mom didn't answer. It switched to voicemail. That's strange, I said, tilting my head. Maybe they were still in the car and she hadn't noticed the phone. That's what I told myself as I headed back to my desk. But I couldn't concentrate. Looking at the clock, it was 6:30. I called Mom again. This time too, the phone just kept ringing with no answer. I tried calling Claire as well. Same thing, no connection. Anxiety began to swell in my chest. Had something happened? Had they been in an accident? Dark thoughts crossed my mind. Just then, I heard the sound of the front door opening. David had come home. I heard his voice calling out, "I'm home." I rushed down the stairs to my husband. "Welcome back," I said, and David noticed my expression. "What's wrong? They're not back yet?" he asked. "That's right, and I can't reach them," I voiced my anxiety. David frowned too. "That's weird," he said, and tried calling Mom himself. But still no connection. We sat together in the living room, staring at our phones. The clock showed 7. 2 hours had already passed since the promised time. David squeezed my hand and tried to comfort me, saying, "They're probably just stuck in traffic." But my anxiety didn't go away. They should at least be able to make a phone call. Why weren't they contacting us? Was Emma okay? The more I thought about it, the tighter my chest felt. Then at exactly 7 in the afternoon, my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. I frantically answered. "Mom, what happened? Why didn't you call?" I asked in rapid succession. But what I heard from the other end was my mother's trembling voice. She just said, "Lisa," and then her words caught. "Mom, what happened to Emma?" I screamed. My heart was pounding hard. Mom's next words changed my world completely. "Emma is missing," Mom said. At first, I couldn't understand what I was being told. "What? What do you mean?" I asked again. Mom explained through tears. "At the shopping mall, we lost sight of her," she said. In that moment, my heart felt like it would stop. The strength drained from my knees, and I couldn't stand. David supported me. "What do you mean? What do you mean Emma is missing?" I shouted. Mom started to explain in more detail. We were playing hide and seek, and then, she broke off. I could hear Claire's voice in the background too. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," my sister was crying too. My mind went blank. Hide and seek. Why were they playing hide and seek? Why did they take their eyes off her? Questions kept coming up, but I couldn't voice them. "Where are you now?" "I'm coming right away," I finally managed to squeeze out. "We're at the mall security office, the police are here too," Mom answered. Police. That word pierced my ears. It was serious enough for the police to be there. Emma really was missing. Tears overflowed and wouldn't stop. David immediately grabbed the car keys. "Let's go," my husband said. We rushed out of the house and got into the car. David got in the driver's seat and started the engine. I kept crying in the passenger seat. "Emma, Emma," I called my daughter's name. It'll be okay, we'll find her, David told me, but his voice was shaking too. The car headed toward the shopping mall. The scenery outside the window flew by. It was usually about a 20-minute drive, but today it felt very long. Every time we hit a red light, I got irritated. Hurry, hurry, I screamed inside. David seemed anxious too, pressing down hard on the accelerator. Emma's smiling face came to mind. Her small figure waving from the car window this morning. Her voice saying, "Good luck with your work, Mommy." At that time, I hadn't felt any anxiety. I had trusted Mom and Claire. I never imagined something like this would happen. Feelings of self-blame welled up. If I hadn't let her go, this wouldn't have happened. Work didn't matter. I should have kept Emma where I could see her. At 7:45 in the afternoon, we arrived at the shopping mall. Several police vehicles were parked in the lot. Red and blue lights flashed, illuminating the area. I'd never seen a scene like this before. I never imagined I'd be involved with the police this way. We parked and hurried into the building. A security guard was standing at the entrance. "Are you Mrs. Taylor?" he called out to us. "Yes," I answered, and he said, "This way please," guiding us to the security office. As we walked down the hallway, my legs were shaking. David supported my waist. Mom and Claire were standing in front of the security office. Both were crying. When they saw us, Mom rushed over. "Lisa, I'm so sorry," Mom said. Claire also repeated, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I stared at the two of them. Why? Why did this happen? I asked. But this wasn't the time to listen to explanations. We had to find Emma as soon as possible. When we entered the security office, there were several police officers in uniform. One officer approached us. "Where's my daughter?" I asked. The officer answered, "We're currently searching the entire mall, and we've deployed police dogs as well." Police dogs. With those words, I realized once again how serious the situation was. Mom and Claire began explaining again. "We were at the toy department on the 3rd floor," Mom said. "Emma said she wanted to play hide and seek," Claire continued. I was it and closed my eyes, but no matter how much I looked, I couldn't find her, my sister said through tears. "Why? Why did you take your eyes off her?" I shouted. David hugged me and said, "Calm down," but there was no way I could calm down. My daughter was missing. I didn't know where she was. Someone might have taken her. Just the thought made my body shake. "Emma, Emma," I cried out. The security office was small and suffocating. Multiple monitors lined the wall, showing various parts of the mall. I was urged to sit in a chair, but I couldn't sit. I couldn't just stay still. I had to go look for Emma. My daughter might be scared somewhere right now. She might be calling for me. The police officer explained the situation. "We received a report from your mother and sister around 3 in the afternoon," he said. More than 4 hours had passed since then. 4 hours. Emma had been missing for 4 hours. I couldn't believe it. The officer continued. "We're currently searching all floors, and we've requested cooperation from each store. All employees are looking for her," he said. Announcements were being made regularly throughout the mall. A lost child announcement. A 3-year-old girl. Wearing a pink dress, with brown hair tied in 2 ponytails. Hearing those details, my heart felt like it would burst. That was the outfit I had picked out for her this morning. Emma had been so happy to wear it. She'd spun around in front of the mirror, saying, "Pretty," laughing. That smile came to mind. Tears overflowed and wouldn't stop. But even after an hour passed, Emma wasn't found. The officers were communicating via radio. "East Side, Second floor, nothing. Underground parking, negative. Each report chipped away at my hope. David had his arm around my shoulder, but I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't wait any longer. I rushed out of the security office and ran through the mall. Emma, Emma, I shouted as I searched from store to store. David chased after me. Lisa, calm down, let the police handle it, my husband said. But I didn't listen. Give me back my daughter, give me back my daughter, I kept shouting. Passers-by looked at me. Sympathetic eyes, confused eyes. But no one had seen Emma. No one knew anything. I ran up to the toy department. This was where Emma had last been seen. Colorful toys lined the shelves. Dolls, blocks, stuffed animals. Everything Emma would love. But Emma wasn't there. She wasn't anywhere. I fell to my knees on the floor. Emma, where are you? Mommy's here, I squeezed out. People around me looked concerned. A security guard rushed over and gently said, "Ma'am, let's go back to the security office." David lifted me up and we returned to the security office together. In the security office, Mom and Claire were still crying. Neither could look me in the eye. Mom covered her face with a handkerchief, and Claire was leaning against the wall. I approached them. "Explain it to me again, in detail," I said. Mom looked up. "Really, we were just playing hide and seek," Mom said. "Emma said she wanted hide and seek instead of tag," she explained. Claire continued. "I was it, and I counted to 10, then started looking," my sister explained. "But I couldn't find Emma. At first I thought she was just hiding really well," she said. "How long did you search?" I asked. "About 10 minutes, or maybe longer," Claire answered vaguely. "What were you doing during that time, Mom?" I looked at my mother. Mom said, "I was looking too, but we couldn't find her, so we contacted security." The more I heard, the less I understood. Why did they take their eyes off her for so long? Why didn't they contact the police sooner? The thought, "You'd need a leash," crossed my mind. Was this really the time for such jokes? I was filled with anger and sadness. Around 9 in the evening, a security guard came into the office. It was the head of security. He looked at me and said, "Mrs. Taylor, I need to speak with you. Could you come this way?" I stood up. "Did you find something?" I asked. The security chief's expression clouded, and he said, "We've been reviewing the surveillance camera footage. I'd like only you and your husband to see it." "Why? What's on it?" I asked. The security chief answered with a serious expression, "It's better if you just see it." David also stood up and took my hand. We followed the security chief. Mom and Claire called out, "What's happening?" But the security chief stopped them, saying, "Please wait here." We were led to another room. It was a monitoring room. An entire wall was lined with monitors, and several security guards sat watching the screens. Several police officers were also present. We were offered chairs, and David and I sat down. The security chief operated the keyboard and displayed footage on one monitor. "This is the footage from the toy department on the 3rd floor," he explained. The screen showed the toy department. The timestamp read 2:35 p.m. There, Mom, Claire, and Emma appeared. It was Emma. My daughter was on the screen. Emma was happily running around. She picked up toys and showed them to Mom. Mom smiled and nodded. It was a peaceful scene. I was glued to the screen. The footage continued. 2:42 p.m. Claire took Emma's hand. Emma looked a bit confused but followed Claire. They left the toy department. Mom followed behind. "Where are they going?" I murmured. The security chief silently pointed at the screen. Claire, Emma, and Mom left the toy department area and entered a deserted corridor. There was a door marked "Employees Only." Claire picked Emma up. Emma tilted her head. It was as if she were asking, "Where are we going?" Mom was checking the surroundings. She looked around to make sure no one was there. And then, in the next moment, Claire opened the employee door and went inside, still carrying Emma. Mom immediately followed. The door closed. The two of them had taken Emma away from the toy department and disappeared. I was speechless. "What is this?" I asked in a trembling voice. David gasped too. "Please watch a bit more," the security chief said, switching to different footage. This time it was parking lot footage. The timestamp read 2:50 p.m. The screen showed the parking lot. A car was parked there. It was a familiar car. It was Mom's car. From the employee exit, Claire and Mom appeared. Claire was holding Emma. Emma still looked confused, not understanding what was happening. Claire put Emma in the back seat of the car. Mom got in the driver's seat. When the engine started, the car slowly drove away. The screen stopped. Silence dominated the room. My mind was in chaos. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. Mom and Claire had taken Emma away. It wasn't hide and seek. They hadn't lost sight of her. They had intentionally taken Emma out. What does this mean? I asked again. My voice was shaking. One of the police officers spoke. "I'm sorry, but it's highly likely this is a kidnapping," he said. Kidnapping. That word pierced my ears. Mom and Claire had kidnapped Emma. My own mother and sister. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Why? Why would they do this? I screamed. David held me tight. I collapsed crying against my husband's chest. The image of Emma on the screen wouldn't leave my mind. Emma being held by Claire with a confused expression. What had my daughter been thinking at that moment? Had she been scared? Had she called for Mommy? The police officer said, "We're going to question your mother and sister now." They were waiting in another room. I looked up. "I'm going with you," I said. The officer hesitated. "I understand how you feel, but I wouldn't back down. This is about my daughter. I have the right to hear this," I insisted. "I'm going too," David said. The officers looked at each other and finally agreed. "However, the police will conduct the interrogation. You two just observe," they set as a condition. I nodded. We were led to another room. Mom and Claire were sitting there. Both looked anxious. When we entered, Mom stood up. "Lisa," Mom called out. But I said nothing. I just stared at Mom with cold eyes. The police officer showed Mom and Claire the surveillance camera footage. The two watched the screen and turned pale. There was no denying it. The evidence was clear. Claire broke down first. "I'm sorry," she said in a small voice. Mom also covered her face and said, "It's my fault, it's all my fault." The officer quietly asked, "Where is Emma now?" A heavy silence fell over the room. Claire looked up and answered in a trembling voice, "Emma is at my house." Hearing those words, the strength left my body. She was alive. Emma was alive. At least she was safe. But at the same time, new anger welled up inside me. "Why did you do this?" I shouted. The officer tried to restrain me, but I didn't stop. "Why did you take my daughter?" I demanded. Claire said through tears, I. And choked on her words. The officer asked again, "Tell us why." Claire took a deep breath and began to speak. "I've been undergoing fertility treatment for 7 years," my sister confessed. 3 rounds of IVF, 2 miscarriages, my sister's voice trembled. I'd reached my limit, she continued. I was hearing this for the first time. That my sister had been carrying such suffering. For 7 years. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. My sister continued. You got a daughter without any struggle, she said. Every day, I was in despair. Every time I saw Emma, my heart felt torn apart, Claire said. At those words, I caught my breath. It was true that I'd been lucky. I'd gotten pregnant right away and had Emma without any problems. But I'd had no idea my sister felt this way. So you kidnapped my daughter? I said coldly. Claire looked down. At first, I just wanted to make you worry, my sister said. I was going to hide her for just a few hours, make you taste the fear of losing a child, she said. Anger exploded inside me. What are you talking about? I shouted. Do you understand how cruel that is? I yelled. David grabbed my shoulder. Calm down, my husband said. But there was no way I could calm down. Claire kept crying. But then the police came and I couldn't bring her back, my sister said. Couldn't bring her back. So did that mean she'd actually intended to return her? I couldn't believe it. For 3 days, we'd suffered so much. Emma had been so scared. The officer turned to Mom. How were you involved in this? He asked. Mom looked up and admitted, I'm an accomplice too. Mom looked at me. Claire was suffering so much, I thought we'd just trouble you a little, Mom said. Just a little. At those words, I was appalled. But we never thought it would become this big, Mom continued. We never intended to put Emma in real danger, she said. But you did, I shot back. You kidnapped my daughter, I shouted. Mom couldn't say anything and just cried. The police officer stood up. We'll protect your daughter immediately, he said. After confirming Claire's home address, the officers left the room. David and I followed. I couldn't look at Mom and Claire's faces anymore. I could hear their crying behind us, but I didn't look back. We got into a patrol car and headed to Claire's house. The siren wasn't on, but we were moving fast. In the car, I kept praying. Please let Emma be safe. Please don't let her be hurt. Please don't let her be scared. David squeezed my hand. It's okay, we'll see her soon, my husband said. In about 15 minutes, we arrived at Claire's house. It was a familiar house. The house where Mom and my sister lived. I'd visited here many times. We'd had family meals here. I'd brought Emma to play here. And in this house, Emma had been hidden. I couldn't believe it. The police officers opened the door and went inside. David and I followed. Emma, I called out. Living room, kitchen, she wasn't anywhere. The officers went upstairs. I ran up too. Bedroom, study, and the room at the very back. Claire's room. The officer opened the closet. There, Emma was there. Wrapped in a blanket, sleeping. Emma, I rushed to my daughter. I picked Emma up. My daughter woke up and said, Mommy. And then she clung to my neck. Emma, Emma, I kept calling my daughter's name. She was safe. She wasn't hurt. According to the police who checked, she'd been fed too. Physically, there seemed to be no problems. But what wounds had been left on Emma's heart? I couldn't know that yet. Mommy, I was scared, Emma said in a small voice. I hugged my daughter tightly. It's okay now, Mommy's here, I whispered. David also came close and stroked our daughter's head. Thank goodness, my husband said. A police officer spoke to us. Please have her examined at the hospital tonight, he said. I nodded. Still holding Emma firmly, I left the house. Several patrol cars were parked outside. Neighbors were watching. But I didn't care. Emma was safe. That was all that mattered. In the car heading to the hospital, Emma said, "Auntie was crying." "Why was she crying?" my daughter asked. I struggled for an answer. "It's complicated, sweetie," was all I could say. David gently stroked our daughter's head. The examination at the hospital went smoothly. Emma had no visible external injuries and her nutritional status wasn't bad. However, the doctor said she would need psychological care. Counseling was recommended. I agreed. I had to protect Emma's heart. We got home late at night. Emma had fallen asleep in the car. David carried our daughter and put her to bed. I sat next to Emma and gazed at my daughter's sleeping face. Even though she was so close, I still couldn't believe it. It would take time to truly feel that she'd really come back. The next day, the police contacted us. Mom and Claire had been arrested for kidnapping. Both had admitted to the charges. There would be a trial. I never wanted to see them again. I wouldn't answer their calls. I wouldn't read their letters. They weren't my family anymore. I made that decision in my heart. 3 months later, the trial was held. I stood in the courtroom. Claire was found guilty of kidnapping, but considering her mental anguish and remorseful attitude, she received a suspended sentence. Mom also received a fine as an accomplice. That was the end of the legal punishment, but the social consequences continued. Claire's husband decided on divorce. Mom became isolated in the community. She became known in the neighborhood as the grandmother who kidnapped her grandchild. Relatives also began to distance themselves from the two. No one gathered at Mom's house for Thanksgiving or Christmas anymore. The two became completely isolated. I decided I would never see Mom or my sister again. When they called, I didn't answer. When letters arrived, I didn't open them. David asked me once if that was really okay. "They're suffering too," my husband said. But my answer didn't change. "They're not my family," I said firmly. "There are things more important than blood ties. That's trust, respect, and love." I couldn't forgive those who betrayed that. Emma received psychological counseling. Fortunately, it seemed no major trauma remained. For Emma, that incident was just something like, "I had a sleepover with Auntie." But sometimes she would ask, "Where's Grandma?" Each time, I was at a loss for words. "Grandma went far away," was all I could say. 5 years passed. One day, there was a letter in the mailbox. When I saw the sender, my hand stopped. It was from Claire. A letter from my sister, with whom I'd had no contact for 5 years. After hesitating, I opened it. The letter said, "I'm truly sorry for what happened then." And it continued, "I've adopted a child and become a mother." She'd given up on fertility treatment and chosen adoption. "Now I have a son I love," Claire wrote. "What I did to you will never be excused, but I pray for the day when you might forgive me," the letter concluded. I sat down on the sofa, still holding the letter. "Aren't you going to write back?" David asked. "I don't know," was all I answered. Should I forgive her? Did I not have to forgive her? The answer didn't come easily. Emma had turned 8. She was growing up bright and healthy. She'd made lots of friends at school and seemed to enjoy every day. One day, Emma came home from school and said, "Mommy, Auntie had a baby." She'd apparently heard from a classmate. "That's nice," Emma said with innocent laughter. "Yes, that's good," I answered. Complex feelings swirled inside me. Claire had become a mother. She'd gotten the child she'd wanted so badly. In the form of adoption, but still, Claire must be happy. I didn't know how to process that fact. But I'd learned one thing. Forgiveness and keeping distance don't contradict each other. I could wish for Claire's happiness. I could hope that Mom lived peacefully. But that didn't mean we needed to restore our relationship. This was our answer. On the weekend, the three of us as a family went to the park. Emma ran across the grass, laughing. David chased after our daughter, the two playing together. I sat on a bench, watching that scene. This was our family. I was convinced that a real family isn't about blood relations, but about respecting and protecting each other. David sat next to me and took my hand. Without saying anything, we watched our daughter play. The autumn sun shone down gently, and the wind rustled the trees. It was a peaceful autumn day, just like that day. But we had changed. We'd become stronger. And we'd learned what was truly important. That was enough.